Now, hopefully this is working. There we are. Yeah. Okay, this is the YouTube version. It's not going to be as, whatever. Yeah, whatever. I'm just trying something different. My Facebook stuff only hits a small number of people, supposedly, and maybe this will do the same way. So, before I was interrupted, I was talking about a different economic view, so to speak. The idea that if we take a look at ourselves as a component of the world, and ourselves being the United States, then we look at human beings and our survivability not based upon the current definition of economic productivity, meaning, Starbucks is not as productive, or is not on an equivalent level. I don't mean not as productive, but is not on an equivalent level to, the important point in this case is somebody working in a hospital. Okay, and then you get into the idea of functions and the value set and value add for various functions. And in all, health should be taken out of the equation. There's no surplus in the health area. There's no too much health. Let's think about that. I'm thinking off the cuff. You look at certain species in the other kingdom, wherever you want to call, like using bees and ants and maybe termites, other communities or colonies or things like that. They work for their collective good. And bees, as an example, right? They go out and they have different roles and they all fulfill their roles, and they collectively create a supply of food, and that the smart people have investigated what that food is used for. And I don't know if it's prioritized to be used for the queen or to be used for the army bees, or I don't know any of that. I just know that their surplus is equal to everybody. There's no bees cordoning off a certain amount of the honey or the gel or whatever they're producing and say, hey, this is mine. There's no Jeff Bezos bee. That's pretty funny. Jeff Bezos, that has half the honey. That would be indicative of showing the reality of the situation, because if Jeff Bezos had half the honey, what damn good would it do him, right? You put that on the scale where the life of the bee is for, one cycle of the earth around the sun, and it kind of falls into perspective, right? So the same thing could be said of bees are pretty unique, I think. Maybe there's a few others, like I said, termites and ants and other insects. Maybe insects are smarter. Maybe that's why. But those that collect and forage supplies, collectively, they keep their house together. They all that kinds of stuff. Who knows? I didn't plan this. So I'm just rapping, so to speak. But if we took all of the activity involved in keeping people alive, all right? If we somehow took that out of the equation, then I'd probably say, number one, I'd have no problem with the rest of it, like all the good things that we add on to it. Like entertainment and sports activities and, clothes and you know, to a lesser or greater extent, you know, housing, you know, all those other things, all those good thought, good ideas, right? They're all relatively optional. And then you get into the idea of, well, why does somebody need Chateaubriand versus McDonald's hamburger? You know, protein is protein, carbohydrates are carbohydrates. You know, there's no problem with the value add, but the relative point is sustainability, true sustainability. Those functions that keep you alive in this country, you know, and this is backing into more essential, or as essential as food, is health. Now, this pandemic response is fragmented. It's decentralized. And there is a cry to get it all underneath the government. And then the government, you know, the federal government takes certain responsibilities and they've divvied them up between, you know, the different, you know, bodies that we have created, you know, in order to regulate these things. And, you know, between the FDA and the CDC and the, you know, you name it, whatever, the FTC and the blah, 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 you know, those things operate on scale and leverage. They do not work on the individual level. It's a bass-backwards way of looking at a trickle down, but I don't want to play the trickle down economics game. You know, it is a glorious pyramid scheme, so to speak. But I don't see where there is a cost benefit analysis necessary for determining how many ventilators you're going to need, you know, to manage millions of people, you know, getting sick. You know, they need to get sick on schedule so that, you know, your supply equals the demand. That's not true. Okay. What if these things were heart surgeries? Okay. What if the need was not a piece of equipment, but surgeons? What if you had a vicious virus come through that altered the, you know, the one of the valves in your heart, and so that you needed a procedure done, and, you know, as I think is true, you know, well, hell, look at that. You would not be able to handle that influx, right? In other words, if you could get a virus that messed with your heart in a 3-week period or a 5-week period, you know, and they could project how many people were going to potentially get that, you know, we'd be screwed, right? And that's why I'm not knowing all the other the viruses like Ebola and MERS and SARS, the other one, and things like that, but they you know, we have a situation where we found something that we could put pressure on. And the point is, get the money out of it, it could be solved. And more importantly, every country in the world is going to face the exact same crisis of timing. Okay? And our borders and our walls that divide us keep us from having a solution to the problem. Let's think about that. Right? We're not going to get out of it. We're not going to get out of it thinking that it's a supply issue that needs to be managed by the government and solved. Somehow I've gone off topic, but that's unimportant. Right, Bubba? let's see. If you haven't figured it out, I'm taking Sir Monster Lot. Here, put this back on. Yeah. Taking Sir Monster Lot. We just came back from a chilly little walk. But I have this well mapped out in my head. You know, like a lot of things, I just figure out, talk them out, because unfortunately, you know, jack of all trade, master of none. Nobody listens to me. It's like the ventilator crisis. I floated a thing out there which had been also addressed even earlier about finding supplemental mechanized means for getting assisted pressurization of oxygen, you know, by CPAPs and BiPAPs and IPAP machines, and, you know, anesthesia ventilators, and, you know, all other kinds of equipment. But the thing that there's no agreement upon, no understanding among all the people. Ooh, I can make my hat look a little better now. Yeah. There's no understanding, is that where it fails is that we don't have an overall view as a nation. And that I continue to let these things boggle my mind. It's like, how is that possible? I took a peek and know that the FDA provides regulatory identifiers for ventilators, which are a class 2 or class 3 piece of equipment. And, you know, all that means is these are the things that the individuals must do. The individuals that make them and the individuals that use them, that consume them, you know, there's things they have to do. And without knowing anything about ventilators, what all of a sudden hit me is, okay, the price tag on the true ones is, you know, let's say $30,000 to $50,000, right? And at least since the year 2000, loosely in my industry, right? You know, information technology, and this goes back to IBM even, you know, all the equipment manufacturers of simple microprocessor, equipment like, you know, personal computers or mini computers or, you know, whatever else. Well, they were making more of their money off a service than the sale. So they embedded support contracts in every piece of equipment that you got. And whenever you got a piece of equipment, you know, it came with a level of support to begin with, and you had the option of buying additional support. And my point for saying that is that somewhere out there, every ventilator in the United States is under some kind of contract. So there's somewhere, well, not somewhere. The point is, there are lots of people that have an understanding of what the numbers are, how many ventilators there truly are, okay? And where they are, but they have never cared. You know, it's like saying, you know, Toyota, and I'll pick on Toyota because I went to school with the chairman. Yeah, hey, you know, Toyota knows who everybody that purchased one of their cars or trucks is. They don't know. They know who they sold it to, you know, but they work through, you know, through agents, through emissaries, right? Through dealerships. The dealerships know everybody they sold it to, you know, and they loosely have contracts, you know, but they're all reactive rather than proactive. Meaning they proactively take your money, but they're reactive. They only provide service when called upon. You know, this is the nature of the business of monetizing every damn activity that's gone on. You know, to a lesser or greater extent, you hope that surgeries are not conducted in that same fashion. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, You hope so. But back to the ventilators. The point is, the greatest need for the ventilators is in the metro areas and in the density areas, and there are some of them that have a need, that have a greater need than others right now. And you only see the highest density areas, such as New York City, throwing its hand up, doing, equivalent of economic quantity ordering analysis and projections to say, hey, we're in trouble here. And, they assume that they cannot get them from anywhere else because everywhere else is going to be equally affected. Let's think about that, all right? So, if all the ventilators in New York City could be properly adjusted to where their need is going to be, okay, then yes, the federal government could provide all the additional ventilators that are necessary, with the understanding that as the need subsides, they can be repurposed. But there's a funny thing about that. Nobody's thinking about repurposing. They're thinking that, okay, we send the ventilators to, location such and such. It's never going to get out of there. And truth is, the ventilator use projection with this virus is 3 times what the average of use of a ventilator is for people in other procedures. That's what I'm hearing. All right. They say the average is 10 to 20 days, which that's a pretty wide average, as opposed to, I think it's, 3 to 5 or something like that. So it's pretty big. It's pretty big. And touch my face. So, that means that's probably why the number is so large, because at the worst point in time, worst point expected, you're going to have all these ventilators in service, and you have to have all these spaces to have them in, and you're going to have all these people to monitor and manage them, okay? And then at that peak time, when New York is at peak, somebody else is just ramping up. And New York is not going to come off peak fast enough as the next area ramps up. Evidence as we're seeing from Louisiana. And Louisiana has a scary number. I think they said they have ordered 12,000 and they've got 100 and some odd. So it's hey, if you allow the states to go at this individually, they will produce a ridiculous amount of ventilators, in that they're going to be sitting around, not needed at some future point in time, in a happy scenario, and that should be the secondary consideration to the fact that you're saving lives. But it's not the secondary consideration. It's the primary consideration that people are going to, what, Bubba? What? You looking at me? What? Come on, I'm over here. Yep. Let's hang. All right? Yeah, it's a primary consideration that, the cost, the cost of money to build the ventilators. I heard a number said that General Motors needs $1 billion in order to ramp up its production capability of ventilators. And the other crisis is probably that the ventilators are not manufactured here in the United States, or the parts aren't sourced here in the United States. That's something that, when you think about, critical to, what's the thing they do where they do, to the national interest, all right? How the hell did we get into a situation where we have an inability to create something that's in the national interest that is understood? Same thing with these these vaccines and these other formulas, that the things that are needed to protect the country in a time of a national crisis are not within the nation. Well, here, there's a hell of a hint. This is not a national crisis. It is a world crisis. Okay? And the prioritization is the same when you look at the world as it is when you look at the United States. Right now, New York, I don't know where in California, but New York, California, and Washington, now Louisiana, Michigan's coming on strong, as crisis centers, okay? And we have a situation where it's already passed through, or initially passed through Wuhan, China, over to South Korea. Interesting that they talked about Wuhan as a province in China, as opposed to they talk about the whole country of South Korea. I haven't got that. I don't have that figured out much. I personally have missed all the talk about Hong Kong, although I know Hong Kong was mentioned in here somehow. And what's the third one I was going to say? China, China, South Korea, Italy's getting hit, Spain is getting hit, France is getting hit, Germany's getting hit. Russia's closed its borders. Hey, these borders are not going to solve the problem. They are a containment function to slow the spread of the virus down. Without answers about how the virus is contracted, that's a problem. That's a problem. Anyway, I threw this thing out on YouTube. Let's see how this works. Okay, just running my mouth.